Let us not forget everything that happens. It's by the will of Allah. Holy will. It's time to unite and stand, and we will be the best amongst men. It's not time to be extreme or duty unthinkable, but to stand together as one. Tune into Sunnahfollowers, streaming every day, various platforms. Trust me, you'll find a way. Sunnahfollowers. Open your eyes and look around. Open your eyes. Do you see the very things that you read about coming true? Don't you realize the moments are near? Correct yourself in your affairs. He has made it crystal clear. These are the signs of the time. Assalamu alaikum. Sunnahfollowers, new class, stay tuned. Signs of the times.
Wassalamu ala wa rasulullah. I want to welcome everybody to our new series entitled The Signs of the Last Hour. This is a class that many people have asked me to repeat. I usually teach it, every other year, and I did just teach it about a couple of years ago. But I do want to redo those videos because I don't like the way they look. And also, since I've been streaming now on social media with video, I've got a lot of new subscribers, a lot of new students, a lot of new shahadas. In particular, I got about 25 new shahadas right now. Alhamdulillah, they're hanging in here. They've been hanging in with us here since Ramadan, and I'm so proud of them. And the people have asked me, Sister Layla, can you do the series on the signs of the last hour? Can you break down what the last hour is and its signs and what it signifies and all of that? So, due to the request of some of the new shahadas, who are male, of course, men like to hear about that. And also because I do want to redo those videos because I don't like the way they look. This will be the beginning of this series. Now, when I teach about the signs of the last hour, I don't teach it like anyone else, because all the signs that I'm going to go over with you are all authentic. And one of the things that we have to understand is that Islam is a complete religion. What does that mean? That means that Allah told us everything that we need to know about how to get close to Him, how to protect ourselves from the antics of Shaitan. Whatever brings us close to paradise, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam shared that information with us. Whatever takes us closer to hell, he shared that with us too. And when we talk about the last hour, a lot of you, especially my new shahadas, they say, well, Sister Layla, as a Christian, we believed in Judgment Day too. And, as this is something that we were taught too. Well, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us in an authentic hadith. What's the source? Sahih Muslim. He said that every prophet from Adam to him, every prophet that Allah sent, Allah shared with them knowledge of the last hour. But Allah never went into so much detail with anyone like he did the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's why all the books of Allah mention the last portent, or the last hour, or Judgment Day, or the apocalypse, as some people refer to it as the apocalypse. It's mentioned in all religions, the three major religions, because every prophet from Adam alayhi salam on, the prophet told them, let your people know that judgment day will come, that they will be held accountable, that I will raise them up and judge them for all the choices they made in this world. You know, but Allah went into detail with our prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we have a hadith, whereas several of the companions tell us that one day the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam led them in Fajr prayer. And then he went out to the courtyard and he began to speak with them. And he continued on and just took breaks to make prayer and continued on and took another break to pray Asr, continued on for Maghrib, continued on for Isha, continued on, and he kept on until Fajr the next morning. And he held their attention. And this was the day that he detailed everything that would happen. Okay? The signs of the last hour, from the beginning to the end. He went into great detail. So that's why the hadiths are there, you know. But the thing is, you have to be a person who has studied the hadiths. You have to be a person who has studied the history of Islam, which is the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions, so you can know the order, so you can chronologize them, you can put them in the proper order. Well, alhamdulillah, I've studied all that, so I can put them in the proper order for you. And that's what we're going to embark upon in this class. We're going to speak about the signs of the last hour, from the minor to the major to the end. And not only am I going to tell you what those signs are, I'm going to also share the entire hadith with you, because not only did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mention the different signs, he also explained why these things would occur. Remember, Islam is a way of life based on cause and effect. We have to understand that each and every one of us, we were created to worship Allah. We were put here on this earth to be tested in our belief in Him. For those of us who deviate away from living this religion the way Allah legislated, there will be consequences. And Allah tells us that He will punish us not only in this world, but He'll punish us twice. He'll punish us in this world and the hereafter. Okay? So, not only will I mention the different signs of the last hour, but I will also detail to you in this series what will be happening at the time to cause Allah to send whatever it is that He sends. Because again, we all have to understand as Muslims that everything good, everything evil comes from Allah. Allah is the creator of good. He's the creator of evil. He's the creator of everything. That's the basic tenet of La ilaha illallah that you all should understand. And you have to understand that. Because if you understand that, then you would stop blaming man for the calamities that are befalling us. And this is what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told the companions. We cannot sit around and blame man for the hardships, for the trials, for the calamities. Everything comes from Allah. Allah says in the Quran, whatever good befalls you comes from Him as a reward. But on the other hand, whatever evil befalls you comes from Him too, as a result of what you brought upon yourselves. This is what we don't understand today. We Muslims today are running around panicking like chickens, because of what's going on in the world around us, the war in Gaza, the different wars in Africa, the wars all over the world. There's more than the war in Gaza going on. There's a war in Africa that's been happening since the early 2000s. Oh yeah, this genocide ain't just happening to the Gazians, okay? But we would understand, we need to understand as Muslims that everything is happening today is cause and effect. Israel is not in power. America is not in control. The Zionists have no power. The power lies only with Allah. He's the one that brought this war. He's the one that brings the tornadoes. He's the one that brings the earthquakes. He's the one that brings the hail. He's the one that brings sickness. He's the one that brings death even. And we Muslims have to get back to that reality and stop giving Allah's power to man. Man is only the puppet that Allah uses. We're all puppets of Allah. Everybody understand that? If you don't understand that, you got some serious issues in your aqidah. Okay? Which is one of the reasons why Allah is sending all this stuff to us. Because our aqidah is twisted. All right. So I'm going to detail in this series everything from A to Z the way the Prophet did. And everything I use is authentic. I'll have the hadiths. I'll have the sources. And I'll take it further. I'll tell you why Allah sent it, because he tells us why. That shows the mercy of Allah. Allah is so merciful that he even explains why he will send the different calamities. He explains why, even though he doesn't owe us an explanation for anything, he is so merciful that he tells us why he's doing what he's doing. And not only that, but out of his mercy, he tells us what we should do as a result. He tells us what to do as a result to not be a part of the punishment. We can't stop Allah's decree. I want every Muslim listening to me to understand that there's nothing you can do to stop the decree of Allah. If all mankind were to come together and stop the war in Gaza, you will not be able to stop anything unless Allah wills it. And this is his will. Okay? So we have to understand Allah not only out of his mercy tells us what's going to happen, and why it happens, but he also tells us what we should do as a result. So I'm going to cover all three of those aspects with you in this series. And just so you guys know, this class will be held every Monday and Wednesday. Every Monday and Wednesday. Every Monday and Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Unless I have to do something, you never know, life happens. Okay? So that's what this class will be held. So I want everybody to take notes. I want you guys to put me on the big screen TV too, because I want the children to learn about the signs of the last hour too, because the children are our future. You and I, we may not live to see the war begin against Islam. Well, we see the beginnings of it with Gaza and Africa. You and I may not live to see the war hit America. But our children, inshallah, our children and our grandkids that are living probably will. So they need to pay attention to this class too. So put me on television, and I want the parents, the mothers, to take screenshots. Use your cell phone, your iPad to screenshot my PowerPoints, because I will be using PowerPoint like I always do. And I'll have the hadiths there with the sources so you can see that Layla Nashiba doesn't make up anything. And one of the people asked me, how did I learn about the hours of the signs of the last hour? Well, I learned about the signs of the last hour when I was a child, when I began studying hadiths, because there's a whole chapter in Bukhari and Muslim on the signs of the last hour. So I memorized all those hadiths when I was a kid, taught at my mosque, by Mukhtar's mother and his father. And then when I got older, when I was in 1986, when I was in college, and I created this website, Allah blessed me with a great scholar named Umar el-Eshkar. Umar el-Eshkar, he's no longer living. May Allah forgive him of his sins. He also taught me about the signs of the last hour and in detail with the meaning of those hadiths. And also Allah blessed me with another great scholar named Sheikh Qardari, Sheikh Yusuf Qardari. Those were two of my best teachers. And both of them, through the interpretation of Jamal Badawi and his sister-in-law, helped to break the meaning of these hadiths down to me. And then Allah brought Sheikh Mustafa Morsi Abu Atayib, who is the only one of them living besides Jamal Badawi. Jamal Badawi is in Canada now, but Allah blessed me with Sheikh Abu Atayib, who is my present teacher, who also took it and broke it down even more, the meaning. So that's how I learned it in detail from true scholars of this ulama. Yusuf Qardari was a scholar of the ulama, whether you like it or not. So was Muhammad Umar el-Ashkar. And so is Sheikh Abu Atayib, Sheikh Morsi. Okay? So again, like I tell you guys, you cannot teach yourself this religion. You have to learn from the true scholars of Islam. You have to sit in their company, not listen to their lectures. You have to sit in their company with them so they can get to know you, so they can quiz you, ask you questions like I do you to see if you understand, to make you express yourself correctly like I do you. That's the way I learned from them. Okay? I wasn't a name that they didn't know. They knew me. Okay? And I knew them. All right? Okay, so please take screenshots. So let me get started here and try to put them all in order. But today what I'm going to do, you can't talk about the signs of the last hour without first emphasizing how it's belief in it happening is part of faith. So that's what I'm going to focus on today. Today, I'm going to go into detail showing that, yes, the last hour will come. I'm going to also go over a couple of hadiths that are not authentic. There's so many hadiths that are not authentic that people use in this series. Okay, but I'm going to break down two hadiths that are not authentic and explain why they're not. And then I'm going to give you two hadiths that are authentic, which help to prove that the last hour will come, but only Allah knows when it will come. So let me get started here. Let's put the PowerPoints up on the screen. Give me a second. Oh, let me take this down. I got to take all this down. Hold on. Yeah, wait a minute. Okay, that's down. And I want to take the ticker down. And please support this dawah effort, guys. We're always in need of donations. Please scan that QR code and donate to support this website. I don't know how much is in our account. Probably just $100. My God, and we might be overdrawn because I haven't checked it 3 days. Please support this dawah effort. It takes $2,000 a month to cover our website expenses. And we are a nonprofit organization. So your money doesn't go in anybody's pocket. It goes straight for all the expenses here. And from the videos you guys see me putting out and the way I keep upgrading, y'all can see where your money is going. Okay, it's going right to the streaming. So let me put the PowerPoint up. Give me a second. I'm going to make this screen. I'll do this while I start with the Zoom people. Wait a minute. Where's the PowerPoint? Oh, here it is. I got so many PowerPoints on my desktop. Is this the right one? Yeah. Okay, I think this is the right one. Let me go to Zoom. Okay. This is Zoom. Okay, the Zoom people, inshallah, can see. Now let me share it to you guys here. Last hour. This should be it for you all. All right. Oh, let me move this out the way so I can see. All right. Okay, let's try to make this. And please, like I said, take the screenshots for the kids. So this will be the first session of this series. And I'm going to speak about the reality that the last hour will indeed come. And can everybody see the PowerPoint? Right? I mean, is anybody here on YouTube? They see the PowerPoint? Yeah, we can see it. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, because my phone is lagging or whatever. I got that. I think that's on Telegram. Okay, well, tonight we're going to speak about how indeed the last hour will come, because believe it or not, guys, we have a sect of people that call themselves Muslims, but they're really not Muslims at all. They deny the Hadith. They say that they only believe in the Quran. They do not believe in the Hadith. So they do not accept these, many of the Hadiths about the last hour. Well, and whenever we reject the Hadiths, we're rejecting Muhammadur Rasulullah, which is the second part of that Shahada. You're saying that all you believe in is La ilaha illallah. Well, you won't even know what to believe about La ilaha illallah unless you believe Muhammadur Rasulullah. So it's important for me to begin this series, by letting everyone understand that that day will indeed come. And if you believe that it won't, then you're not a Muslim. You're nothing. And you need to change that way of thinking. Okay? So I want you guys to listen to what Allah says and the interpretation, the meaning. It is not righteousness that you turn your faces towards the east or the west when praying, but righteousness is instead is the quality of the person who believes in Allah and believes in the last day and the angels and the Quran and the prophets. Alayhi salam. So here we can see in this verse, Allah is telling us that there's some people out there, they think that just because they face the right direction when they pray, that makes them righteous in the sight of Allah. Allah is saying, no, it's not that. Just because you face the direction I commanded you to face doesn't make you righteous. He said righteousness is to believe everything that I commanded you to believe in me, to believe in the prophets, the angels, the last day. So imagine Allah speaking to those brothers and sisters who say they believe in the Quran, but not the Hadith. You think that just because you believe in the Quran, that's righteousness? Nope. Righteousness is to believe in the Quran and the angels and the last day and Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Y'all see that? This is how we refute people like that. We don't waste our time debating with them. We just throw it back in their face. It's right here. So as you can see, believing in the last day, believing that the last hour will come is a component of faith. Also, Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, the believers believe in what has been sent down to you, O Muhammad, and what was sent down before you. And they are those who perform their prayers and who give in charity and who believe in Allah in the last day. And they are the ones who we will give reward to. So here you can see Allah telling the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how to recognize who the true believers are. So he's reminding us, who are the true believers? You need to remind your children who are the true believers. They're not people that just turn their faces in a right direction to pray. The believers are those who believe everything that Allah sent down to the Prophet Muhammad. And they also believe in everything that came before it. And they perform their prayers and they give in charity. They're the ones who will receive reward. So let your children know we can't just pick and choose what parts of Islam to abide by. We have to abide by and submit to all of it. We had a person earlier telling a sister on our website to submit to her husband. Nowhere does Allah command a Muslim woman to submit to her husband. Nowhere does Allah command any human being to submit to anyone but him. Submission is to Allah alone, brothers. You brothers, be careful of the words you choose with your wives, because you're going to come upon a woman like Layla Nashiba who will make you eat those words with dirt. Okay? Submission is to Allah alone, not to man, not to animals, not to the jinn, not to the angels. Everybody understand that? And submission to Allah means doing everything He commanded you to do. So you tell your wives, submit to Allah and obey Allah in everything He commanded you in. And by doing that, Allah will cause the people on earth to love you who need to love you. Everybody understand that? So the believers believe in everything that Allah sent down, and they obey Allah. They fulfill their obligations to Him, and they believe in the last day. This is important. Why is it important to believe in the last day? Because it's the day of reckoning. It's all about choices and consequences. Remember, we talked about how after Allah created Adam, He waved His hand across His back, and all of our souls appeared. And after our souls appeared, Allah gathered us at Arafat, and He had us testify to La ilaha illallah. And then He gave us free will. And He told us, you, me, all of us, that whatever choices we make when we are put on this earth will come with consequences. We will be held accountable for our choices. So believe in the last day, because that's the day of reckoning. That's when Allah will gather us back together and hold us accountable for whatever decisions and choices we made in this world. So again, believing in the last day is a component of faith. And Allah doesn't lie. If you can't trust anyone on earth, know that you can always trust Allah. He doesn't lie. And He gives different metaphors to reinforce in our hearts that the last hour will come. For example, He tells us in the interpretation of the meaning, Allah, He is the one who manages and regulates all affairs. He explains the verses in detail to you so that you can believe with certainty in the day that you will meet your Lord. Ponder the meaning of this. Allah, He's telling us that He's the regulator. He manages. He regulates all affairs. What's happening in Gaza? He regulates that. What's happening in Gaza? He manages that. This is your dalil. Nothing is happening in Gaza that He didn't want to happen. It's happening because He willed it. He's the manager of it. He's the regulator of it. And he goes so far as to tell us why too, even though he doesn't have to. And we're going to get to this. Allah tells us why he sends war. He tells us, I send war for several reasons. Number one, to cleanse the earth of bad people. There's a lot of bad people in this world. Look at yourself. He said, number two, I send the war to test those who truly believe in me with something better. Are you one of those people? And I also send war, he says, so you can recognize who the true believers are from the hypocrites. Which one are you? Are you a hypocrite or are you a true believer? Those of you running around with like a chicken without a head, panicking, asking, why is Allah doing this? Why are children dying? Why? Why? Is that the statement of a believer or is that a statement of a hypocrite? Allah speaks the truth. He's the manager of all things, including the war. And he explains why. He gives the evidences, the verses in detail, so that we can believe in him and know that there will come the day of reckoning. The question is, will you be one of those people tested with something better than life? Or will you be the hypocrite? Or are you one of the corrupt people who Allah needs to rid this earth of? We got a lot of corrupt Muslims, man. Real corrupt Muslims. Okay? Also, in some places of the Quran, Allah speaks of the last hour as something which will indeed happen. So you have to believe it. For example, he says in the interpretation of the meaning, Allah is the only one who originates the creation, and he will repeat it. Unto him will you return. So he's telling us we will have to go back to him. We will return back to him and be held accountable. Also, Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, he knows the day when you will be brought back to him. And when you're brought back to him, he will tell us of everything that we did. So he's letting you know, I don't know when the last hour will come. I don't know when the war is going to happen. I can see the signs. All the signs that are happening right now lead up to the next phase, which are the 80 nations, the United Nations signing an agreement to make war against all Muslim countries. I can tell you I see the signs, but only Allah knows when it will happen. And only he knows when he will bring us all back to him. And also in some parts of the Quran, Allah again lets us know, even though we don't know when it's going to happen, there is no question it will happen. For example, he says, in the interpretation of the meaning, verily, the hour of judgment is surely coming. There's no doubt about it. But most of you men don't believe it. Hello. Are you one of those women? Are you one of those men that don't believe the last hour is going to come? Well, I want you brothers and sisters to know, as the Prophet Muhammad said when Allah sent this verse down, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I want y'all all to know the last hour will come to each and every one of us when Allah takes your soul, because you're gonna die. So even if you don't live to see the apocalypse, you will live to see death at some point. So it's inevitable. There is no doubt you will be gathered back to your Lord. All of us. And unlike what the Christians believe, you won't be in a death state of sleep. You will be conscious of what's happening to you, and you will be questioned in that grave, and you will be punished in your grave. And that's another class. I already did the series on that. Okay? Also in other verses, Allah swears, and Allah can swear by anything he wants. He swears that the last hour is coming. For example, he says, Allah, La ilaha illallah, none has the right to be worshipped but he. Surely he will gather you together on the day of resurrection, about which there is no doubt. By the winds that scatter dust, and the clouds that bear heavy weight of water, and the ships that float with ease and gentleness, and those angels who distribute provisions of rain by Allah's command. Verily, that which you are promised, which is resurrection, is sure to come. And verily, the payment is sure to happen. Subhanallah. One of the most beautiful verses of the Quran. Here, Allah is letting us know that that last hour will come. You may not think it will. That's the nature of the human soul. The human soul is criminal by nature. The human soul wants to reject the truth. The human soul wants to think it's going to live forever. I want to live forever. Well, that ain't going to happen, guys. Death will come, just like the woman that sang that song. I want to live forever. She died a few years ago. She didn't live forever, even though she wanted it. Also, Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, by the mountain and by the book inscribed in pages unrolled, and by the house over the heavens parallel to the Kaaba, and by the roof raised high, and by the sea kept filled. Truly, the punishment of your Lord will come to pass, and there is no one that can prevent it. Just like we have to understand, guys, that Allah is the creator of everything. He's the one that brings the war. And there's nothing you and I can do to stop this war unless Allah wills it. You don't have the power. You can protest. You can boycott. You can kill yourself if you want to. You can't stop nothing that's happening. Only Allah has that power. Well, just like you can't stop Gaza, you cannot stop the reality that that last hour will come either. Okay? So, guys, Allah lets it be known in numerous verses of the Quran that the last hour will come. No matter how happy and content you are in this world, no matter how young you think you are, no matter how much you think that you're going to live forever and fly like Irina Carla did, that last hour's coming one way or another. Either Allah going to take your soul, that last hour comes at death, or you're going to live to see the sun rise from the west. And if people believed firmly with understanding in these words of Allah, then they would take the last hour more seriously. We would check ourselves. We wouldn't be so quick to walk out the house without a hijab on, without wearing the proper clothing. We would take our prayers more seriously. We women would learn what our roles are as women. We would learn the lawful and the unlawful. We wouldn't even consider a job that entails servicing men to give them pleasure, be it feeding them, serving them, massaging them. We wouldn't think of none of this stuff if we truly understood and believed in the last hour as we should. So here we can see the Quran warns us about it. Allah describes the last hour as being tomorrow, which means the day that follows the day that you're passing in your time. Some people out there who came to believe in Allah, they asked the question, how can the last hour be so close at hand? When Allah wrote about this stuff, or not wrote, but Allah revealed this stuff over 1,000 years or so. The answer is that only Allah knows when that last hour will come. But I want y'all to understand this. We have a hadith narrated from Ibn Umar. He said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the lifespan of this nation in comparison with the other nations is like the time from Asr until Maghrib. Also in another version, he said what is left for you in this world in comparison to the people that came before you is like the time between Asr and sunset. What does this mean? Don't you guys know that there was a time that humans used to live a long time here on earth? Look how long Noah alayhi salam lived. Noah spent over 300 years calling the people to Allah. Look how long Solomon lived. Look how long Abraham lived. Look how long Adam lived. And look how short the lifespan of our prophet Muhammad was. Look how short our lifespan is. Do you know anybody that's 200 years old? Do you know anyone who's lived to be 300 like Solomon and Noah and them other prophets were? You know, our lifespan is usually 60 years. After 60 years, that's it. The most you can live is probably 80 or 90. Okay, 70 or 80. So that's what this hadith is speaking about. You know, we can't imagine the last hour. Why come you can't imagine the day of judgment coming? We don't have long lives like Solomon had, like David had, like Jonah had, like Noah had, not even my Moses. We don't live as long as them. So this hadith likens our existence to one day of this world in which the Muslim nation emerges at Asr, and then we're gone by Maghrib. Life is short, guys. Each generation lives less and less. Subhanallah, not more and more. Also, in another hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I and the last hour have been sent like this. And he gestured with his two fingers. In other words, we are sent one behind the other. Do the math. It was just what? Over 1,400 years ago, the Prophet Muhammad was on this earth. He ain't here now. 1,400 years is not a long time. Subhanallah. The last hour will come in a blinking of an eye. Death will come to us at any moment. Subhanallah. Also, so again, what this hadith means is that if we were to liken time to the middle finger, that was what was left at the time of the prophet when he was sent. Okay, remember his mission. He didn't receive the call to prophethood until he was, in his 40s. And look how quick that went by. He died, in his 60s? Subhanallah. Okay, so life is short. Life is short. You may think that the last hour will never come, but subhanallah, indeed it will. I want y'all to understand that. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, this world is nearly finished and there is nothing left of it but a little, like the little bit of water at the bottom of a cup, which you will drink soon. You are moving from this world to a world that has no end. So go to it with the best that you can. Subhanallah, guys. This life has an ending, but there is no ending in the afterlife. Either you're going to be in your grave, your soul in hell, being punished until the day of judgment, or your soul will be in a green bird until the day of judgment, but there is no end in the afterlife. This should scare everyone. And all of these hadiths are Bukhari and Muslim. So the last hour will come, whether you believe it or not. It's going to come. It's going to come one way or another when that angel takes your soul, or you see that sun rising from the opposite direction. And again, only Allah knows, and this is important. I tell you guys, be careful with the internet. A lot of Muslims today, instead of them learning Islam directly from the true people of knowledge, we think that we can teach ourselves the deen, so we like to Google. I tell you guys, whenever you type anything about Islam, it automatically goes to Islam.org. Islam.org is a Shiite website. It's owned by the Shiites. And you know they don't believe in the hadiths. They don't believe in Islam the way they're supposed to. So you got some of them telling you that the last hour will come on this day or that day at this time. I remember in the year 2000, in 1999, everybody kept saying, oh, 2000, the millennium, it's going to be the day of judgment. Well, just like people wonder when it's going to come today, people never change. They did the same thing back in the prophet's time. In fact, he was asked about the last hour. He said, the person who is asking knows more about it than I do. And the person who was asking him at that time was the angel Jibreel. And then we have the verse from the Quran where Allah clearly states that when the hour comes, it's only one of the things that he knows. Even our prophet Muhammad didn't know when the last hour was. Listen to what Allah says and the interpretation of the meaning. When will it come? Tell them, O Muhammad, that knowledge is only with my Lord. No one can tell you its time but him. Heavy is its burden through the heavens and the earth. It shall not come upon you all of a sudden. What does that mean? That means Allah let the prophet know there will be signs. It's not going to just come all of a sudden. Allah is going to send signs of the last hour. And that's what we're going to be going over in this class, the different signs. There's minor signs and there's major signs. We are in the major signs now. And when I review those different signs, you'll see what Allah meant when he said, it will not come upon you except all of a sudden. But there were signs that led up to it. So we can't say, in other words, I didn't know. You can't say that I didn't know that the last hour was coming. The angels are going to say, why didn't you know? You saw the sex out of wedlock. You saw the LGBT. You saw people taking the words of Allah, twisting them around to mean what Allah didn't say they mean. You saw the Ruwaybida. You saw how women took on the characteristics of men and vice versa. You saw how the Sunnah became abandoned. So it's not going to come all of a sudden like that. Allah will give us signs first. And then after that last sign, that's when it will come, bam, all at once. Y'all get what this verse means now? I'm explaining this verse for the brother here. So it's not a sudden thing, whereas we didn't know. No, the signs will have manifested. Those signs prior to it coming will have manifested, just as all the minor signs have already manifested now. Do y'all get this verse now? So it's not a sudden thing without signs. The signs first and then it's sudden. That's the meaning of this verse. But how would you not know that this verse meant that? You have to learn the hadiths. I keep telling you, brothers, the hadiths are the explanation. And that verse mean that it comes without signs. That's why you cannot follow those brothers who call themselves Quranites. They believe in the Quran, but not the hadiths. That verse does not mean it's going to come without signs. It means the signs first and then it'll come after that. So these verses clearly indicate that knowledge of when it will happen is something that only Allah knows. But he did share the signs of it with our Prophet Muhammad. And we're going to go over those signs. Pay attention to this hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the keys of the unseen are 5. In other words, there are only 5 things that no one knows except Allah. And one of them is when it's going to rain. Also, when will the last hour come? Also, what is in the womb? Also, what you're going to earn tomorrow. Also, what land you're going to die in. Only Allah knows those 5 things. So if you guys are on Islam.org thinking you learning a religion, you on the wrong website. They tell you that they're great sheikhs, those 12ers. That's how you know it's a Shiite website. They believe in the 12 imams. Okay? They say that the 12 imams have insight as to when the last hour will come. They have insight as to where the Mahdi is. This is all garbage. Only Allah has this knowledge. And also it's garbage to believe that there are no signs mentioned because you don't believe in the hadith either. Okay? So, looking into this matter and claiming that the hour will come at a certain time in a certain year, this is attributing words to Allah without knowledge. Remember, Allah tells us the things that he dislikes, the things he hates. He said the things that he dislike and hate are all the things he made haram. And of all the things he made haram, the thing he dislikes and hates the most is for us to speak about him without knowledge. So to speak about Allah without knowledge goes against the methodology of the Quran. Okay? Only Allah knows when that hour will come, so don't try to figure it out. He gave us the signs to look at, and he tells us what to do for each sign, and that's what I'm going to cover in this series. I'm going to cover what we're supposed to do with each sign. Just like the eclipse. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Allah sends an eclipse. It's a sign of his anger. It's a sign that he's getting ready to send his wrath to whatever part of the world sees it. He says, so when you see the eclipse, go to the mosque and make 2 rakats and repent from your sins and beg Allah for forgiveness. What happened when we had that eclipse last month? The East Coast of America experienced a terrible earthquake that they ain't never experienced in decades. Okay? Sign of Allah's anger. Then we had flooding in the Middle East. Okay? Which ain't happened in decades. See, Allah speaks the truth. Allah tells us to recognize his signs. But don't go around trying to investigate. Okay, that's the thing. Know your place, Muslims. Know when to hold and when to fold. Recognize the signs of Allah. But don't try to sit there and figure him out. So, We got some weak hadith out there. And I usually don't speak about these weak hadiths. But because the brothers brought this to me, there are some hadiths out there that are not authentic. And if a hadith is not authentic, we don't pay attention to it because it's a lie. Anyone who lies on Allah, anyone who lies on the prophet will take their seat in hell. So we don't deal with anything weak. Only the strong survive. But there are some lying hadiths out there that contradict these clear verses of the Quran. Okay? And there's one such hadith that is also a lie that speaks about how long the world will last. And I used what Ibn Qayyim had to say about it here. He said, the hadith that says its duration, the duration of the world is 7,000 years, and we are in the 7th millennium. Ibn al-Qayyim said this is one of the most obvious lies. Because if it were an authentic hadith, everyone would know that we have only 251 years left from when he made this statement. And why did I use this Ibn Qayyim, a scholarly statement, instead of the companions hadith? Why come I didn't use the understanding of the companions? Can anybody figure it out? Y'all know I don't hardly ever give you an opinion other than the companions. Why didn't I use a companion's opinion of this hadith? Can anybody tell me?
Because everyone's quoting scholar, like the people after the companions.
Okay, what you mean?
Like the people of quote unquote knowledge of today, the Dala, Google a sheikh, or these dime a dozen sheikhs that you've discussed before.
That's a good question, but no, think about it. Listen at this. This hadith is a lie. That means the prophet never said this. So why am I giving you what the great scholar Ibn al-Qayyim said, instead of telling you what the great scholar of all times, Aisha or Ibn Umar, said? It's real, it's common sense. And this is the only time that we refer to a scholarly view. Can y'all figure it out? What did I teach y'all the other day?
Because the companions never said this.
Exactly, because this is a lie. Because the Prophet Muhammad never said this. This issue never came up in the companion's lifetime. They didn't have no, if a man was walking around talking about the prophet said that the earth will be destroyed 7,000 years, what would Umar have done to such a person? What would Abu Bakr have done to that person? Come on. What would Abu?
They would have killed them.
They would have killed them because they lied on the prophet. That's a munafiq. So this stuff didn't happen during the companions' time. So the companions, so in that case, remember, whenever there's something questionable in the religion that's not clear, we look to see what the companions had to say. But if it's something that they didn't have to deal with, that they said nothing about because it didn't happen in their time, that's when we look at the scholars. This hadith was a lie made up after the companions. Some idiot made up this hadith saying that the world will, probably a Shiite, because that's when Islam has spread from out of Persia. So it's probably the Shiites who made it up anyway. They said the earth will only exist for 7,000 years. It was Ibn Sina and his movement from out of Persia with all this theology. So the companions weren't around back then. They don't know nothing about this crap. But Ibn Qayyim was here. Okay? So he said, this is a lie. This is a lie. If that were true, then we can say that ain't but 200 years left. 200 years came and passed because Ibn Qayyim been dead a long time. Did it happen? No. But do y'all understand that's the only time that you will see Layla Nashiba quote a scholarly view. We quote the scholarly views, you know, when the companions have nothing to say about it because they weren't even here to even know about it. Because were they living, the idiot that made this lie up would be killed. Okay? So for you young brothers who sent me this hadith, you probably got it off a Shiite website. Okay? This hadith is not authentic. In fact, Ibn al-Qayyim said this is one of the most obvious lies because if it were authentic, we'd only have 251 years left. It's been more than 251 years since Ibn Qayyim. We still here. And also Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning, if they ask you about the last hour and when it will come, tell them that knowledge is only with the law. Only Allah knows. So for my young brothers, stay off of that Islam.org. It's a Shiite website. The companions never said this. This hadith was never quoted by any companion. It's a lie. Okay? And among the hadiths, again, this is what the companions said. You want to know what the companions said about when the last hour will come? This is what they said. Ibn Abdullah, he said, I heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say 1 month before he died. You ask me about the hour. That knowledge is only with Allah. I swear by Allah, there is no soul on earth today who will be here alive 100 years from now. That's what the companions said. This hadith is authentic. This hadith is Sahih Muslim. So what the Prophet was saying here is, I can't tell y'all when the last hour is going to come. But I can tell you this, none of y'all are going to be living after 100 years. Why? Because the lifetime, the lifespan of my nation is 60 years. We don't live to be 300 years no more. And sure enough, guys, all the original companions were dead 100 years after that. None of the original companions were alive because nobody lived to be over 100. Most of them didn't even make it to 100. They were fighting in battles and martyred. Most of them, Asma, the sister of Aisha, she outlived Aisha. She died at the age of 92. But that's just the most they would get is maybe their 90s. Abu Sufyan, I think he lived to see 90. Okay? Also, we have this hadith where Ibn Umar says the Prophet led us an Isha prayer at the end of his life. And when he gave salams, he said, do you see this night of yours 100 years from now? None of you will be left. None of you on this earth right now will be living. So his companions didn't live over 100 years after his death. 100 years after the Prophet's death, they were gone. So now do y'all see why I used Ibn Qayyim? You see now, Sister Ifti, why I used Ibn Qayyim's fatwa.
Yeah, makes sense now.
Yeah, y'all, that's why I did this, to show these brothers. Hope you brothers understand. Y'all think that women are less intelligent than you. Hope you get it. None of the original companions were living at the time of Ibn Qayyim. So that's why I'm giving y'all the fatwa of Ibn Qayyim. Because had those companions been alive, they'd have killed whoever made the lie up anyway. Also, we have this other hadith from Aisha, radiyallahu anha. She said when the Bedouins would come to the Prophet, they used to ask him about the last hour and when it will come. He would look at the young children amongst them and say, if this one lives, he will not grow old until the hour comes to you. In other words, he meant, I can tell you this. Only Allah knows when the last hour will come, but I can look at your baby and tell you that he won't get old before you die. That's all I can tell you. Y'all understand this hadith? I put this hadith here because this is another hadith the young brothers didn't understand the meaning of. This is an example. You cannot teach yourself this religion, brothers. My dawah is geared towards American and Western women. You brothers are free to learn from me too. Okay? But don't ever challenge me, because I'm a chip off the block of Aisha, radiallahu anha. No one could ever win an argument with Aisha. Well, you consider me the Aisha of today. You ain't gonna win an argument with me, because I'm not gonna give you no answer that's not based on what Allah or these prophets said or these companions. Okay? So what Aisha said that the prophet meant here was this. He was telling them only Allah knows when the last hour will come. I can't answer that question to you Bedouins, but I can tell you this. If your child lives, he will not get old before you done died. If he gets old, you will be dead. That's all I can tell you. Okay? Also another hadith from Anas. A man asked the prophet, when will the hour come? The prophet was quiet. Why was he quiet? Because he was receiving a revelation, brothers. Whenever you read a hadith and it says the prophet remained silent for a while, that means he was receiving a revelation from Allah, an answer from Allah. He was silent for a while. Then he looked at a boy, a little boy from the tribe of Azda, who was in front of him and said, if this little boy lives, he will not get old before death, the hour of death comes to him. So be careful with these hadiths. Anas said that boy was my age at the time. And what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was referring to in these hadiths was the hour of those whom he was addressing. In other words, when their death would come, as explained by Hisham, who was one of the original companions. When you learn the hadith, guys, the explanation is given to us by the companions who narrated. Hisham explains to us that he meant death, the death of that person. So don't play around with this religion. You ain't qualified to teach yourself the deen. The Prophet Muhammad didn't teach himself. I didn't teach myself. And don't you ever challenge me. I allowed you brothers to challenge me this one time, but don't ever challenge me again. All right? Okay, I'm going to stop right here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika.